Tom Johnson. No, I'm not Tom Johnson, but this is the next project. I think it looks pretty bad. A real barn find, this one. Lots of mouse poop and spiders and dust and general horror. And it took quite some cleaning to get it done. Spraying off here and getting it probably more wet than it needed to be. These are still pretty good screws that I was able to put into some de-ruster, and here's some rotted wood. It was the only rotted wood I found. That red there is wax that somebody's tried to put in. Don't know why. And once you start sanding and you put some mineral spirits on here, you see that, well, you see what it could be. And so I'm just going to sand the whole thing in 240 or 220 grit, lightly sanding pretty much the whole thing except those ornate legs, just that part. I figured I'd sand parts of it too much and others too little, and they were really good shape, so I just left them like that. But not everything was in good shape. There's a chunk out that I will have to replace. Here's something that was some sort of divot taken out of there. Just put some wood glue behind it and then clamp it down. And make sure that that's not going to catch on anything and that it keeps its integrity. These legs that swing out and hold up the ears of this table, this lop table, English lop table, Hangoortafel in Dutch. And I just could not figure. This was kind of loose here, this whole mechanism. And so I ended up just taking it off and then gluing it down. But here I am like a gorilla with an iPhone. I just can't really figure out what they've put in there, and it was working, so I left it alone. And here we just sort of take a test to see if the screws will go in there, and then I'm going to put the screws in very lightly and then crank it down with the wood glue, which will really set it, and that did the trick. And now this thing is working well and stable. Here I put a piece of new wood on there, tried to align the grain properly, and now I'm trying to use a wood chisel in the right way. Not terribly good at it, but this is good practice. And then I get out have a sanding block, 60 grit, and then I'll use some 120 and get it nice and flat. I guess not 120, it's 220 that I bring out. And later you'll see this, it just blends right in. The top was really bad, and it's going to need some oxalic acid on it, but I was going to sand it by hand, and that was just a bridge too far. And you can see here the discoloring, so we get the oxalic acid out. Did this about 3 times. It helped. Not everything went away. And here with 220, just getting just lightly over the top. getting everything smooth. Here's another place where I needed to smooth it out and then put a new piece of wood in there. And again, this just disappeared into the table when I was done, luckily. Used epoxy on there, couldn't clamp it down properly without making some new calls. So, but it looks fine, and it's stuck on there really well. Here are some little bit deeper problem areas, so I just filled those in with putty, sand them down, and you can see that tiger oak, that quarter sawn tiger oak in there. It really is beautiful. And you'll get some nice shots of it once I get done putting this stain on. Went on a little bit splotchy just because it was so dry and it was soaking up unevenly, but after the second and the third, you can see it here, a little bit uneven. But after the second and the third coat, it started to really start to look nice. And I put 3 coats on the top, 2 coats on the bottom, and then 2 coats of polyurethane on the top and the side ears of this table. And there's the place where I replaced the wood. It's you just can't see it. Now I get the other ones on, the ears of this table on. Here's a trick of putting the toothpicks in the old holes, and I put a little bit of wood glue on there as well, so when they get in there, they're really tight and really good. Tried to use as many of the old screws as I could, but had to end up using some new ones. So that was too bad, but I just didn't have enough. Some of the holes weren't filled in, and so had to use. But this is putting in the old ones, which I had put in some rust remover so that I could use them, and now they're going into the same holes with that toothpick in there to make it nice and tight again. And here she is, looking very nice. That quarter sawn, that tiger oak look on there just looks beautiful. Everything works, and it was gone from a barn find covered in mouse poop and who knows what else to something that looks okay and would look nice in anybody's house. A nice 19th century lop table.